Have you ever seen a sentence like this? Ich esse einen Döner, der sehr gut schmeckt, and wondered why do we use der here? Why not den or dem? If relative pronouns confuse you, don't worry. Today you are going to learn one of the most important B1 grammar topics, relative pronomen, relative pronouns. By the end of this lesson, you will know exactly how to connect sentences naturally like a native German speaker. Welcome to Sumini German Institute. Let's get started. First, let's understand what a relative Satz actually is. A relative Satz gives us extra information about a noun in the main sentence. Look at these two examples. Ich esse einen Döner. I am eating a doner. Schmeckt sehr gut. It tastes very good. Both sentences are correct, but German speaker usually combine them. So we say, ich esse einen Döner, der sehr gut schmeckt. I am eating a doner that tastes very good. The second sentence now gives extra information about the noun Döner. That's exactly the job of a relative Satz. A relative Satz makes your sentence sound more natural, more fluent, more advanced. Look at this example. Ich kaufe ein Buch. I am buying a book. Ich möchte es im Urlaub lesen. I want to read it during my vacation. This is correct, but it sounds basic. Now listen to this. Ich kaufe ein Buch, das ich im Urlaub lesen möchte. I am buying a book that I want to read during my vacation. This sounds much more natural and professional. Instead of repeating information, we connect ideas together. That's why relative clauses are very important for B1 learners. Before building relative clauses, we need to know the relative pronouns. For masculine nouns, in nominative der, accusative den, dative dem. For feminine nouns, nominative die, accusative die, dative der. For neutral nouns, nominative das, accusative das, dative dem. For plural nouns, nominative die, accusative die, dative denen. Here is a useful trick. Relative pronouns look very similar to the bestimmte article, definite articles. So, if you know German articles well, learning relative pronouns becomes much easier. Now let's look at the nominative case. We use the nominative when the relative pronoun is the subject of the relative clause. Example, der Mann, der dort steht, heißt Carlos. The man who is standing there is called Carlos. Ask yourself, who is standing there? The man. Since the relative pronoun is doing the action, inside the relative clause, it is the subject. Another example, ich kaufe eine Vase, die nicht teuer ist. I am buying a vase that is not expensive. Who is not expensive? The vase. Again, the relative pronoun is the subject. Therefore, we use the nominative form. Now let's move to the accusative. We use the accusative when the relative pronoun is the object in the relative clause. Example, die Blume, die ich gestern gekauft habe, ist für dich. The flower that I bought yesterday is for you. Ask, what did I buy? The flower. The flower receives the action. That makes it the object. Therefore, we use the accusative form. Another example, kauft einen Laptop, den für die Arbeit braucht. He buys a laptop that he needs for work. Ask, what does he need? The laptop. Again, the laptop is the object. That's why we use den. Now, the dative. This is where many learners make mistakes. The relative pronoun goes into the dative when the verb inside the relative clause requires a dative object. Example, ich habe einen Freund, dem ich gestern geholfen habe. I have a friend whom I helped yesterday. Look careful. The verb is helfen, to help. And helfen always takes the dative. We ask, to whom did I help? To the friend. So we use dem. Another example, die Professorin, der die Studenten zuhören, ist sehr beliebt. The professor whom the students listen to is very popular. The verb zu hören also requires the dative. That's why we use der. Very important. The verb inside the relative clause often decides the case. Many students ask, how can I choose the correct relative pronoun? Use this simple method. Step 1, find the noun being described. Step 2, identify its gender, masculine, feminine, neutral, plural. Step 3, find the function inside the relative clause. Ask, is it the subject? Then use nominative. Is it the object? Then use accusative. Does the verb require dative? Then use dative. Example, das ist der Mann, mit dem ich gesprochen habe. The preposition mit always takes dative, therefore dem. This method works almost every time. Let's review some important rules. Rule number 1, the relative pronoun must match the noun in gender and number. Rule number 2, the case depends on its function inside the relative clause. Rule number 3, never forget the comma. Example, das ist der Mann, der hier wohnt. The relative clause is always separated by commas. This is extremely important in German writing and German exams. Let's summarize. Relative clauses help us connect information and sound more natural in German. Remember, nominative when the relative pronoun is the subject, accusative when the relative pronoun is the object, dative when the verb or the preposition requires dative. Always ask yourself, who is doing the action, who received the action, which case does the verb need. If you follow these 3 questions, choosing the correct relative pronoun becomes much more easier. Now, try recreating your own sentences using der, die, das, den, dem, and denen. Save this lesson, practice every day, and follow Sumini German Institute for more B1 German grammar lessons. See you in the next lesson.